Welcome back, everyone. Today, we've been lucky enough to fool Nawal Roy back on our podcast again, so we're going to dig deeper into certain aspects. Amongst them, we're going to be talking about mental health. Obviously, we will be diving into what Marbella means to him and how he sees it, entrepreneurship, and him as an investor. So, Nawal, welcome back.
Thank you, Christian. It's always a pleasure.
It's great to have you back, Nawal. Last time we spoke a little bit about your entire story from beginning to what you're doing right now. One thing that struck me, quite intensely was the importance of mental health, especially nowadays. So I wanted to start off with at what moment you realized that, conception of Hallmusk and mental health, why you dove into that area in particular.
So I would say, as you know, that I'm completely new to healthcare. My knowledge of healthcare was very basic, or as good as any sort of, high-class professional can be. I had worked in healthcare, but I didn't have a full deep dive into this. And I also started looking at healthcare purely from data perspective as to how can I use data to really my interaction with the doctor, my interaction with the industry or the pharma, what have you. I had bumped into a dean of, chair of psychiatry from Duke University in 2014, and he told me a database that he had been building for the last 20 years. And he was the chair of psychiatry. He had a huge amount of publications. He's as much of authority as one can be. And when he started telling me the company that he has been building, which was a very specialist behavioral health database since 1996, and I bumped into him in 2014, So he had a huge amount of work done already. And when he told me about it, it was essentially, in a technical terms, a specialist EHR. Okay. For the lack of a better word, a specialist EHR is a EHR that is built for a particular sector, in this particular case, neuropsychiatry or mental health. And he had approximately around 500,000 patients profile. The name of the company was MindLink. Okay.
Well, it's a good start. 500,000.
Exactly.
Okay. Interesting.
And it was built by Duke University. Duke University is one of the top universities in USA. And when I understood the business model, my take was, I really don't like the EHR business. It's a commodity business, but the data on the back of it is extremely interesting to me. And, coming from finance, I knew Bloomberg Terminal, and I said, I can use the data to build a mini Bloomberg Terminal. Okay. And that was my entree into it. But my focus was overall all the, chronic disease. So non-communicable disease, NCD, what they call, okay? And hence I entered into NCD and got to be very specific about this database. But it took me a long time to acquire them, almost 16 months. And by the time I started working on it, so I was focused on it technically from day one, even before I started Hallmusk. But I didn't get the precision of it for a very long time, at least for 3 to 4 years. Okay. And lo and behold, I have been at it for the last 10 years.
How do you feel where you're standing right now with the project?
I would say in some sense it feels like overachievement, that we have certainly built a foundational infrastructure for the whole sector. From that perspective, it feels very, very solid and very, very proud. But on the second side, it also tells me that how mental health is so broken in our society from every component, from the knowledge point of view, from access point of view, from science point of view, from drug discovery point of view, that there is miles to go before I'll feel fully satisfied as it has been truly taken care of.
It's interesting to hear because all of a sudden, I think especially after COVID, mental health has really been a prime focus of, regardless of the profession you're in, mental health is like on the top 4 elements that everybody considers. I wouldn't even, say top 1.
Yep.
But what do you think has changed? It's always been there, but why do you think the focus is on it right now?
I think it has been, COVID was the first time when people getting stuck in their own place for various reasons was completely a historic event. I don't think it has happened for a very long time. The very last time was somewhere like 1907, a Spanish flu. And COVID was the first time which was happening at a global stage. It normalized the concept of loneliness, the depression, anxiety, everything, became real. It came out in public. And I think somewhere people have started expressing it and saying it far more than, But I would say still, if you, the world is divided in terms of mental health, the world is divided into two parts. Number one is purely on the wellness side, which is just the anxiety, and it's not necessarily a disease. It's not pathological. Okay. The second side is when it becomes truly clinical and pathological. Okay. You getting a normal temperature is not a challenge. You having 104 and having it consistently, that's a real challenge. Okay. That's what I'm trying to say. Getting a severe depression or a schizophrenia, something that truly influences the functionality of your day-to-day life. We, as of now, as a company, we cater to that. Okay, the clinical component of it. When it becomes severe, might medium, but even on the normal side, is getting larger and larger and larger. So the anxiety, you can see symptoms of it as early as 7 years old, 8 years old. Okay, and I think it's extremely healthy sign. In the sense, we don't necessarily think of only physical disease as a disease. We started treating as a mental health also as an issue of concern. When it becomes pathological, that's when it becomes a serious issue.
So this, the mental health aspect of it,
Yes,
becoming such an important topic nowadays.
Yeah.
And it's something that you got involved in. We were talking 2016 already, or was it? Yeah, 2016.
2015, yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So Hallmask, right place, right time. That's I understand that's why there's it's managed to become so popular and so forth. What would you say differentiates Hallmask from any other company in the field?
I would say point number one, we went very deep and very focused. I
can
started with
understand where that comes from.
yes.
Yeah.
We started with multiple experiments, but very fast, once I realized that this is a area that has not been touched, we went very deep. Okay, so the focus was very important. So we don't do anything else, and that was a key starting point. Number two, we didn't want to compromise the science and technology. So we wanted to make sure that it matches the standards of the scientific grade. Okay. From my personal ambition, I'm always obsessed with a scale. How do I scale it to the biggest possible? Okay. So those are the three factors: focus, scientific grade, and industrial scale. Okay. Those were the building blocks by which we truly stand out. Okay. And I would say that would be probably the most unique part of Hallmask.
To understand Hallmask a little bit more,
Yes.
obviously you're data company for mental health. That's
Yes.
that's when I simplify it. That's what I come down to.
Yes.
And where do you get the data from, and how do you package it to turn it into a product, or who's the customer at the end?
Right. So purely in terms of accessing the data, we partner with multiple hospitals. Hospitals which has mental health patients, or which has patients where either the primary indication or a secondary indication is a mental health. Okay. So hospitals are the best partner and the only partner in this space. Down the line, it can be a government, it can be anyone else. But the idea is the data origination happens in the hospital settings, and all of those hospitals are the partners. We can even partner with electronic health record companies, which truly records those companies, and we can partner with those. Okay. But as of now, most of our partners are clinical hospitals. Okay. The hardest task in the industry, what we had to do that no one had done before, is how do you curate them? Cleaning the data is a hardcore plumbing task. Okay. And doing it without compromise of the science, without the compromise of the scale, is where we went very deep and very, very very focused way and very deep, So I would say, if I were to give an analogy, think of it as a oil refinery business. Raw oil that you dig up has extremely limited value. Refinery is where it gets converted, raw oil gets converted to jet fuel, to all the different variety. The industry doesn't understand, or the industry has not paid that much attention to this focus around really creating high quality data that can be queried or is sitting on a platform by which you can literally log in and access, is where we have done and really spent millions of dollars and hours and years to build the database.
Who is the end user?
So end users are, as of now, multiples. Okay, number one, it can be a doctor, back to the doctor, because the same data can be used for them. Okay, if the doctor is also interested in research and publications, or anyone in the academic sectors, they can use for publication purposes. But those researchers also are sitting in the pharma sector, which is in the, essentially they are helping to develop new drugs. So it can be a clinician, it can be a researcher, it can be a pharma companies, but area where it is new and emerging is it can be academic scientist university because they can use it for publication. I have also taken this database to train new undergraduate computer science kids because they are working on these models to literally practice their technical skills. So they are being trained on completely new data course sources. But as AI is becoming a reality, this data is the ultimate infrastructure data for training the best model that can be built. So the intent was, how do we make it useful? Okay, so clean the data so that the data can be used. The reality is the use cases are infinite.
It's amazing to see how. So the data per se, as I said, once cleaned and
Yes.
once you got the tool to actually extract the data you want, can be so applicable to such various let's call it the components, right?
Yeah, it's an infrastructure. It's a complete infrastructure that we have built, and once you have built that infrastructure, then the data can be used for infinite purposes.
Obviously, you already mentioned it, but AI obviously is you've been using it from the beginning, or is it something you've been adding lately?
So I would say in the beginning it was during the curation time we use a lot of NLP for the using the unstructured data. So I would say component of AI has been being used for a very long time. Now the agentic part of the AI is emerging at a very fast pace. So how do you make calls on this data to train different kind of agents? That is happening, and all of those will emerge. But I would say we haven't seen anything yet. So you will see not only here Hallmark on a standalone basis, but the way we can partner with some of the leading companies in this area and really build something else that will be very, very powerful.
All this, Hallmark focused on US.
No, the intent is US is the only place where we can curate the data and upload it. But say tomorrow, if the whole of Europe says, okay, we want to build a similar data set, we can help them build tomorrow.
Would that be one of your focuses, ideal, or you're for right now just with what you got in the
No, so
in
we are
the Americas
operating
enough?
we are operating quite a lot in USA as well as in UK. The reality is, my ambition in this area is very aggressive. Ideally, I would like to do it at a global scale, but it's all a function of business model and contracting, and the readiness and the willingness of the government and the hospitals in the different parts of the world. But purely from our intent point of view, we are open to work with anyone.
Okay. How much percentage of your time do you say Hallmark takes from you?
Mentally, I would say pretty much 100%. It is my single obsession. But on a practical basis, I would say solid 80% of my time, 80 to 90% of my time. Okay.
So the remainder 20, if we're going to take out, let's call it your personal family and so
Sure.
forth,
Yeah.
what other things are in there? Because I know you're an investor and you do different things. So, and every single time we sit down and talk, I discover something new that you're working on or you have worked on. So I would like to know what that entails.
So I'm always obsessed with either working on something on my own or working with other entrepreneurs or something that is truly innovative, and whether it is relevant today or not has a potential to become relevant tomorrow. Okay. And from that point of view, my best breed of people are entrepreneurs. Whether I'm building on my own, and I personally have a lot of ambition around it, but I also love other entrepreneurs, in spite of their scale of ambition, small or large. I'm biased towards a scale. I'm biased towards complex problems. But at the same time, I am always very interested with a genuine entrepreneurship mindset, with the intent to create something meaningful or with the intent to create something good.
And I can vouch to that because every single time that we've spoken and I've got an idea, maybe it would be interesting to introduce you to someone, you've never said no. I was like, yeah, sure. Regardless of the size of the company, either it's a seed, pre-seed, scale, you're always interesting to meet. And so it's a marvel. I like that. So it's...
Thank you. I mean, I would say my personal journey has been a reflection of many goodness of many people. You know, if I take away even my family members and the close friends, people have been generous with me. I have been extremely sort of very shamelessly. I reach out for help with random people all the time. You know, I used to do it so much more. Even now, I reach out to people all the time. Okay, and hence, I would say majority of them make time. You know, there is always a time that they have all the right to say no. And hence, I feel a real sense of joy, not necessarily an obligation, but a real sense of joy. If there is a real, authentic ask, if I can make it, I'm more than happy to make it.
And once again, I can vouch for that you actually do really enjoy meeting with entrepreneurs and learning and helping, even on the mentorship part of it. But you don't just do that. You are an active investor as well. So tell me, what kind of projects do you normally, or which ones do you normally feel attracted to?
I will not call myself an active investor as of now. It comes naturally to me, yes, because I've spent so many years in finance, but I'm not an active investor now. I do intend to become an active investor sometime in the very near future. But when I look at, I'm almost agnostic of a sector. So the sector doesn't matter. But I have a natural affinity towards finance as a sector as well as now healthcare as a sector. But anything cutting edge and emerging, so from nuclear energy to AI to what have you, all of those are open ideas to me, okay? And I'm always interested to look at an entrepreneur and the way they are framing it. And if I can sense a smell of X factor, and the X factor is all around personal ambition, really desire to go very deep end, okay? It's a bit of a knack rather than a refined skill, but I'm always experimenting into that. Okay, a big part of that is also around female health, or the part of the healthcare that is really not taken care of, similar to mental health, a part of healthcare that is not, being taken care of. All of these are extremely relevant topic, and I'm always interested in all of these.
It's interesting because I've been so lucky to talk with very different entrepreneurs, investors, and so forth. And especially when you talk to people who are investors who have invested, you always get that, either there's somebody who's purely looking at the business plan, the KPIs, the finance behind it, and so forth, scalability. And then you got the other ones that always focus on, on the entrepreneur itself. Which one would you fall under?
Second one, because I tend to invest, if I have to invest into scale companies, don't get me wrong, I would love to invest into scale companies, but the kind of check size I write, and I don't run a full formal fund, so my allocation is not into Series A to B to C. I can't lead a large round. But at the same time, that is more of a fiduciary responsibility, and I am not necessarily optimizing for that right now. What I'm optimizing for is there a entrepreneur solving a problem that has a potential for nonlinear payoff? If it is, then first of all, that entrepreneurial journey is extremely interesting. Okay, catching them in the very first day and watching them grow over the next 3 to 5 years, both in a personal capacity as well as a company capacity, is one of the best things. For me, I get a huge amount of kick and joy out of it. Okay, and my intent is, I'm not looking for, at that particular time, there's not enough data to give me any prediction of any nature. If I'm looking for that, I'm being a fool, okay? Or I'm just optimizing for too much. But if I can sense something that I want to be part of the journey of that entrepreneur, okay? And that journey is far more important for me. Very high likelihood, most of the time it fails, okay? But when it succeeds like a charm.
Is there any particular aspect, quality, or topic that you feel that you react to strongly when an entrepreneur has that? You're like, okay, this is my guy.
A sense of hunger. a sense of hunger and sense of really ability to think critically on, uh, almost on multiple planets at one time. Okay. Last but not the least, some degree of positive obsession. Okay.
Okay.
In the sense, most entrepreneurs who truly succeed are very thick-skinned in accepting no. They are really not dazzled that much. It bothers the hell out of them, But at the same time, each no is okay. Let me reconstruct some other way. Okay, and and that skill is very, very refined.
I know. I think last time we did the podcast, we spoke about this a little bit, but I would like for you to share your vision on the, let's call it, past generation entrepreneurs versus the new ones that are coming up now. Any particular comments or aspects that you would like to highlight?
The reality is this: the tier one entrepreneurs in each generation is very good. Okay, tier two entrepreneurs and tier three entrepreneurs, many of them can be copycat. Many of them are, are really building something that is not necessarily uniquely great. Okay, and they are optimizing more for money or the desire to be, sort of a small success, mini success. But the reality is the ease of setting up a company, the ease of all the building blocks of a craftsmanship of entrepreneurship, all of that has become far more easy. Okay, far more easy, and it can be done from anywhere in the place, anywhere in the world. So the takeoff time can be very, very easy, but the idea is even the drop time is also very, very easy. Okay, and hence the sector is always biased towards takeoff. That's where you hear all the stories. Okay, but only the insiders also know the pain of failure or the pain of being in a slump or the pain of really not taking off. So if you look at the aggregate point of view, the reality is extreme success. So what the sector will tell you, 10x success are always hard. 100x success are always rare. Okay, and transformational sectors doesn't happen. Okay, or if it happens, the journey and the pattern, whether it was last generation or this generation, probably the timing is different, can be the only different, but the rest all is as hard as it was.
Education.
Yes.
I know you're a big fan of education.
Yes.
Me as well. However, with the new trends, future, and so forth, and what I see from previous generations and to the new ones, how would you explain the importance of education and the role of education in general? Call it the large universities or the smaller, like here in Spain we got Formación Profesional, which are like more tailor-made degrees for people who don't go to college and so forth. How do you see the future of it?
So first of all, I'll say you are seeing me as a function because I'm a positive outcome of education. I was born very poor. If I had not gone through the layer of education, I would not have been here. I would not have been doing what I was doing. So, and it is not only a singular story, but this is a story you will hear 1,000 different times. Okay, but the delivery of education, whether it happens through a school system or whether it happens through a university system, that will certainly get transformed. Okay, like any other sector. Okay, and that transformation is bound to happen in the coming years. And the business model of universities, whether, okay, you come in, go through the process, I'll sell you the best, the branding of the university and all of that, will get compromised and will get changed in the coming years. But for someone as a human agent, or you and I are humans, as humans coming, we are not upgraded with all the latest knowledge and the software and what have you. How that gets inculcated happens in an education system, whether that happens in a structured learning or whether it is in the self-learning or whether that happens in a certain community learning basis. Okay, but the reality is there is always place for these institutions, large and small, by which you are able to educate a new generation of students, and bring them ready either for their own personal growth or for the job market or the economic, benefits. All of that is the need in the business model from that perspective is legitimately always going to be there.
We've spoken about mental health,
Yes.
Holmusk.
Yeah.
We've spoken about entrepreneurship. We've spoken about education. Let's talk about Marbella.
Yes.
I don't know if you guys have noticed, but he's wearing the T-shirt with the logo of Marbella 2.0, which I'm very, very proud about. So, Nawal, I know we spoke about that briefly the other day, but I mean, what would you see the next coming steps of Marbella 2.0? What any areas you think we should focus on in particular, and so forth?
So, first of all, I would say it's an amazing experiment to really see a society like Marbella, 150,000 or 200,000 people with all the good ingredients, trying to transform itself. Okay. So, purely as an experiment, it's as good as it can be. Okay. If I were to even say between the last time we did podcast and now, the hosting of the event was fantastic. The amount of people who showed up and the true interest in the topic tells you that how it is a topic that resonates with most of the people, who is really relevant for pool as well as for Marbella. Okay.
I'm getting the goosebumps, by the way.
Yes.
Mainly because I completely agree. My impression of that event in particular, obviously we gathered a very good group of, amount of people, which is great. I think the event itself went very smoothly and so forth. But the one thing that struck me the most is how engaged everybody is in the topic. I mean, let's be honest, it's a very attractive topic to be involved with, but you see people actually willing to contribute. And that really makes a difference. I don't know, you experience the same thing from what I'm hearing.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I have said before, even as an outsider, I can relate to it. I relate to it as a thought experiment and as an idea. Okay, but the people who have been living here, they relate to it. Oh, it's relevant. And going back to my original hypothesis, this is a topic that is resonating right now because it's relevant tomorrow. Okay, it is highly, highly relevant tomorrow, and hence for me, that journey is more important. Like if I were to guess what Holmusk would be 10 years back, I would not have guessed. But what Holmusk is today and visualizing what Holmusk can be 10 years from now is almost similar to what Marbella can be 10 years from now. Okay. What truly matters is a starting point, and you had a fantastic start. Okay. You certainly had captured the sentiments of the people in the community. Okay. And that is success by itself. Now the idea is start somewhere. Okay, start somewhere can be okay. Can we start with a status quo of the report where we are? Okay, and then from there, can you pick and choose? Here are the 2 or 3 things that we want to achieve in year 1, and then iterate from there. Learn what we can learn. See what the demand is coming. Is it resonating with the market? Are we still resonating with the people out here? Those are exactly the thematically way that you want to go. But tactically, I would say the starting point would be a status quo report, literally where we are right now, and what are the 3 areas that we can pick and prioritize and act on.
And in case somebody is listening, Marbella 2.0 has always been a very open concept. We just during the event, I think a lot of people actually came forward and wanted to contribute and so forth. And obviously, the first question is like, "Hey, how can I help?" So one of the things that we're working on right now is to put together a report to reflect what the ecosystem in Marbella looks like. But we're always talking about it. But especially and this is your seed that you planted within Marbella 2.0 is that we want some tangible data. And obviously, you're a data person, so we need that tangible thing. Me being more an event guy, obviously we did that we did the event and it was all went well and so forth, but the data thing is something that I really want to work on.
Yeah.
So as you know, we've spoken about the different options that we're going to. I mean, I loved your input about the airport data that we were talking about yesterday and so forth. But yeah, for the people who are listening, we are looking to put together a report. We are looking for softwares to do so. So if anybody wants to reach out with some ideas or some input that they already worked on, we're more than welcome to listen. I am actually looking to do the next event of Marbella 2.0. We're looking October, November. I've got some interesting ideas because one of the things that we were talking about and relating to what we're spoken about right now, education. We were talking about, the missing element of a top-tier university here, and that is something that we're going to be discussing in the next Marbella 2.0 event. Once again, October, November somewhere. But yeah, any area in particular of Marbella 2.0, apart from the amazing group of people and the vibe that we've got, that excites you in particular?
As I said, 6 months back, I didn't know anything about this town. Okay. 6 months into it, I have a very good sense of what it can be. Okay. And I have certainly got to know many people, including you, and that has been extremely positive part of the journey. Okay. I'm really interested into how can we really build on this. I mean, just before this, I had a very good meeting with Armando. I met some other people in the industry, and my intent is always what do I build from there? This is a solid starting point. What do we build from here and where do we go? University is a very close interest to me, and I'm very, very interested in that sector and really figuring out as to what can be truly done here. There are multiple ways to play into that. And I have personally thought about multiple things, but I'm very interested to hear. I know what the sector truly demands and where it really goes.
It will be interesting to see indeed. Naval, I don't know, anything in particular else you would like to take the chance to discuss, or because from my side, I think we've got most of the conversation done.
I think I should, as I've said, my best years are yet to come. I have in 10 years, if there is single thing that has been extremely positive beside, the Hallmark's journey is I have truly found myself. Okay. And that's, at this age, is a mega sort of sense of satisfaction. Okay. Beside all the personal family goals, I think my goal at this stage is to create 2 minimum great companies. Okay. And one of them would be literally probably can be working with another set of great entrepreneurs. Okay. And so I'm really excited about that part of the journey. And hence I'm always open for all great ideas and all great people. And literally have the chance to create that. That will be amazing.
So you're basically throwing the ball back at me. So in order for me to find this great group of people, to make sure that one of the companies that I actually built throughout this time that you're going to be spending on this, to be here locally.
That would be fantastic.
Okay, I'll keep that in mind, and I'm up for the challenge. So, Naval, thank you for your time.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah,
Always a pleasure.
always a pleasure.